Going into our non-negotiables. Non-negotiable number one is our two-strike approach. Every year when we get players in the fall, and some of my guys are probably laughing at me already, okay, but when we get players in the fall, it becomes extremely evident who has been in the program and who is new to the program based on two-strike approach alone. So when we look at our two-strike approach, so any count that you have two strikes, which is 0-2, 1-2, 2-2, or 3-2, we want to buy into a specific mentality. Okay, so here's the way that we look at it. Strike one and strike two, those are for you. Okay, this is your at bat. We're trying to drive a ball. We're trying to hit something hard. You have strike one and strike two to do your best to do that. But once we get to two strikes, now strike three is a team strike. So we need to be a selfless player, just like we want to be a selfless person, and buy into what this approach means. Okay, two-strike hitting is a lot like having your back up against the wall in real life and being put through adversity. And this is an opportunity for you to prove to yourself how you want to fight for the things that you want, not only on the field, but also in your life. Okay, if we can approach our two-strike at-bats with that type of grit and mentality, then we're going to be effective both on the field and we're going to prove to ourselves that we can do hard things off the field. So here's what we do. Between every pitch, once we have two strikes, we're going to step out, we're going to look to the dugout, and we're going to pound our chests, right? So I just foul off a pitch, and now I'm sitting at 1-2. I step out, I look to the dugout, I pound my chest, and I step back in. Why do we do this? Okay, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a reminder to ourselves that we're going to dig deep and fight for the rest of our at bat. Okay, now it's time to get gritty. Okay, I use the phrase a lot, gritty over pretty. Once we get to two strikes, we don't care how it looks. Okay, you might take a pitch that hits you in the shoulder and you wear it and you get on first base. That's awesome. Okay, you might foul off 4 pitches and then roll over a ground ball and beat it out. That's awesome. You might get a ball that you can drive and double to your pole side gap. That's awesome. Okay, but it doesn't always have to look pretty. We just have to find a way. And there will be times in your life as you grow up that there are things that you have to do that might not be the prettiest. You might not be great at it, but you're tasked with doing something and you just got to find a way. Okay. A lot of you will understand this more as you get older. Okay. But once you get into college applications and scholarship applications and AP classes and all of these things, like you're put in this position a lot. So it's a great opportunity to show yourself how you can fight and how you can get gritty. Okay. So that's part of the reason that we do it. We tell ourselves by pounding our chest, I'm going to dig deep. Okay. Now I'm using my heart. I'm going to fight. Okay. We look to the dugout because that's our reminder of who we're fighting for. That's our family. That's our team. So I'm digging deep and it's for you is what we're telling everybody. Okay. And we foul that pitch off and guess what? It's the same mentality. I foul off another pitch, same thing. Foul off another pitch, same thing. Take ball 2, same thing. Take ball 3, same thing, and so on. And we have found that by doing this, your two-strike approach is much better. Okay, so battling with two strikes, it's not always about skill. It's about grit. It's about teaching yourself to fight for what you want, even when your back's against the wall. Okay, one thing that we're going to go into later today in our last session when we go into hitting approach is what it looks like to have the right approach with two strikes. In its most simple form, we don't want to be early on a pitch. Okay, because most of the time when a pitcher gets you to two strikes, they're looking to snap off a breaking ball, throw something in the dirt, get you to chase. And most swinging strikeouts happen because the batter is early, not late. Okay, so we want to have that mentality in our mind to let it travel. We're going to see it deep. We're not going to be early. And if that means we fight off a fastball that we get off of our fists, fine. But we're in a position to fight longer and we're looking for what they're likely going to throw. Okay, when we talk about hitting approach, a lot of times players go up there looking for what they like rather than looking for what they're probably going to get. And it's great if you actually get what you like, but most of the time the pitcher has their own plan and mentality of attack as well, right? So we need to approach our at-bats not necessarily looking for what we want, but looking for what we should expect to get. Okay, you'll hear major league hitters talking about this all the time, of what they like, what they want, but also what they need to be looking for. Okay, Harrison Bader had a great conversation that you can probably find on YouTube on MLB Network talking about this exact thing, about when he faced Justin Verlander in the playoffs this year, what he was looking for. And he said, man, I like fastballs middle in, but I knew I was going to get fastball up and I knew I was going to get slider away. So I needed to change my approach to look for what I thought I was going to get. Okay. We need to have similar mentality and ability to adapt and adjust on the fly. Okay. Attack and adapt is a real thing, meaning that we want full-fledged, relentless attack, but we also have to understand that that attack, we might have to turn a little bit and adjust our approach a little bit in order to get the results that we want. It doesn't mean we're no longer attacking. It just means that we have to adapt our approach at that in order to get the sustainable results that we're trying to achieve. So that's number one, is our two-strike approach. I can tell you that this is something that when I show, if you ever see me at a game, okay, and I try to go to different games, if you ever see me at a game and I am there and I see your team not pounding your chest with two strikes, I'm going to be mad about it. Okay. Because I know the benefit that this is proven over time with people who do it. Okay. If you watch the College World Series, you might see a couple teams do this. Okay. We took it from Ole Miss because they started doing it in the College World Series a few years back and we loved the concept. Okay. Not everything is our own. This is from them and we love it and we will never go away from it. Non-negotiable number 2 is that we got to win our alpha at bats. Okay. There are 3 alpha at bats that we're going to dive into a little bit more during our hitting approach. But for now, your key is that you have to recognize what your alpha at bats are. If we don't recognize these things, then we can't input what our approach should be in these situations. Okay. So there's 3 different alpha at bats that we focus on as hitters. Alpha at bat number 1 is leading off an inning. Okay, simple rule, don't take strike 3. As a leadoff batter, our job is to work the count, but we can't strike out looking to start the inning. Okay, so really our ability to get on base heavily dictates the direction and the expected outcome of the inning. Okay, the discrepancy between the percentage of times that the team scores with the leadoff person getting on base versus the leadoff person not getting on base is huge. Normally it's about a 40 to 60% difference depending on the team. So getting on base to start the inning is really important. And a lot of you are probably sitting there, well, I don't hit leadoff. That's great for the first inning, but it doesn't mean that you're never going to hit leadoff. So understanding and recognizing when you're in that situation is really important so that you can still buy into that rule and that mentality when you are put into that position. Even if you hate it, right? Again, you don't hate it because we love everything. You're hitting leadoff. You never hit leadoff. I love it. Let's get it. Okay. Have that type of mentality. Be ready to take on a challenge and attack and adapt. Okay. Alpha at bat number 2, runner on second with 2 outs. And I would say runner on second and third, or third. So really anytime you have a runner in scoring position with 2 outs, our job now is to knock them in. Okay. You might be a great bunter. That's awesome. But if you got a guy on second with 2 outs and you lay down an awesome bunt, you probably move him to third, but you're not driving in the run. So that bunt in that situation really doesn't help us. So you have to understand situationally what makes sense. So when we get a runner on second or third with 2 outs, our job is to drive in that run. And because our job is to drive in that run, we cannot put ourselves in a position to be down 2 strikes with the bat never leaving our shoulder. We need to at least give ourselves 2 opportunities to swing the bat, to make quality contact, and see if we can find a hole. Okay. So we need to demonstrate what we call selective aggressiveness. Okay. We're not just up there swinging. We want to make sure that they're good pitches that we can do something with, but we have to take at least 2 of them. All right. So if that pitcher absolutely dots the corner on strike 1, tip your cap. That's great. But if he dots the corner on strike 2, we better be aggressive, taking a hack there. And either we put the ball in play, we hit a ball hard, that's great. Maybe we foul it off or swing and miss, but we still get another chance. But we cannot have our first swing be a swing through on strike 3 and now the inning's over. Okay, it kills momentum of the inning. So we don't have to expand. We don't want to swing at poor pitches, but we want to hunt fastballs or whatever pitch it might be in the strike zone. Okay, so that's alpha at bat number 2. Don't take strike 2 with a runner on second, third, or second and third with 2 outs. And then alpha at bat number 3 with a runner on third and under 2 outs. There are so many ways to drive this runner in that we cannot eliminate those opportunities or those options of how to drive them in by taking pitches. Okay, so I tell every runner when they get to third in this situation, hey, expect early count aggression, because our hitters are up there with the task or the rule of don't take strike 1. Don't take it. Okay. You get a ball over the plate. We need to get our swings off. So you get 3 opportunities, 3 swings with a runner on third and under 2 outs to do something productive enough to drive the run in. Maybe that's a bomb. Maybe it's a double. Maybe it's a single. That's great. But even if it's not, you hit a ground ball to the shortstop and with the infield back, that's a run. Okay. You hit a fly ball to the outfield, we can tag up. That's a run. Okay. There's so many different ways. All we need is contact to create pressure. Strikeouts don't create pressure, and they actually add pressure to the next hitter that's on deck coming up behind you because you just struck out and now they feel like they have to do this job that you just failed at. Okay. It does not mean that you're never going to fail. Okay. Realistically, our goals here, alpha at bat 1 leading off an inning, we want to be 50% success rate. 50% plus is where we want to sit. Runner on second, 2 outs, we want to be 50% success rate. That means we're hitting 500 with a runner on second and 2 outs. And 2 out runs is huge. We'll get into that in our next session. Okay. And alpha at bat number 3, we want to be 75% plus on this. And honestly, that's probably low. I don't think there's any reason we can't be 80% plus if we have the right approach going up to our at bat of what we're trying to accomplish. Okay. So those are our alpha at bats. Leading off an inning, don't take strike 3. Runner on second or in scoring position with 2 outs, don't take strike 2. Runner on third, under 2 outs, don't take strike 1. Okay. I don't care if you screenshot this slide right here or you write down those basic rules. Okay. But make sure that this is something that you remember, because as you get into the team sessions, especially when hitting is incorporated in those, this is something that coaches will train on and really cause buy-in on. So if you go in already recognizing what these things are, you're going to be a step ahead, which is what we want, right? So make sure that you remember your alpha at bats. Yes. Young teams, Coach Buffy's sitting right here with me. Young teams, this is absolutely huge. Okay. Just think about how many times you get a leadoff double or a leadoff triple. It's awesome. And that person's there and then they go strikeout, ground out, inning over, right? It's great when you do it to other teams, but we can't put ourselves in a position to have that done to us. Okay. 1 run is better than no runs. And if you get 1 run every inning, okay, you get a leadoff guy on, well, you bunt him over. That's great. They end up at third with 1 out. Well, now you just hit a ground ball to short. If you do that every inning, you just scored 6 or 7 runs, right? Depending on how many innings you play. So it's a great way to what I call death by paper cut, right? Scratch 1, and then scratch another one, scratch another one. Big innings matter. We want those too. Okay. But if we can just scratch 1 across, it increases the pressure that the other team feels. Non-negotiable number 3, creating pressure. There's so many different ways to create pressure. And a lot of times when we think about pressure, everybody thinks about, oh, we just got to steal bases. That's yeah, to some extent we want to do that, but we can create pressure on both sides of the ball. And there's a lot of different ways that we can go about doing this. Okay. So as I go through different ways to create pressure, what I want you to do is think strategically about who you are as a player. Maybe you're a little bit undersized, but you're quick, right? Maybe you're a little bit oversized, but you hit absolute tanks. Maybe you're, the player who does everything good, but nothing great. Okay. Everybody's different. So the way that you can create pressure is going to look different than the way that another teammate might create pressure. But the goal is within who you are, find a way to do that. Okay. So one of the things that you'll hear me say a few times probably throughout the off season is we want you to be you within us. I'll say that again, be you within us. And what we mean by that is we don't want you to change your entire approach of who you are, how you play the game. You're yourself. You have certain strengths and certain weaknesses, and that's okay. That's why it's a team sport, because we want to surround you with players who maybe have different strengths and weaknesses that can cover those things up to make a really strong team. But if you can't do that within the system that we're trying to play, then you're probably not going to be as successful as you could be. Okay. So as I talk through these, I want you to really think about, for you personally, how do you maximize these things based on your game? Okay. So number 1, pace of play. Okay. We want to be on and off the field in 15 or fewer seconds. Okay. That's a stretch for some players sometimes, meaning if you're the last one out and you got to leave your stuff at the plate and somebody comes to pick you up, okay, that can be a challenge to get on the field. Okay. Softball, I know that your team is going to meet between every half inning. You're going to get a breakdown. You're going to take the field together. That's great. But when you take the field, we should all be sprinting out there. It should be 15 seconds or less to get on the field and be ready. Okay. Coming off the field, same thing. Okay. You essentially want to be in a position that every time the other team turns around, you are waiting for them. Okay. By doing that, it does a couple of things. Number one, unfortunately, most travel ball tournaments have time limits. Okay. I don't love them. Sometimes I love them if the game's going real slow, but most of the time you want to play as many innings as you can. So you controlling pace of play on and off the field is going to allow you to play the maximum number of innings, which means the maximum number of innings defensively for you as a player, and also the maximum number of at-bats that you could possibly have. Okay. So it helps from the playing time side. You get more game time. But two, there is nothing better than being the pitcher, and you've thrown your warm-up pitches, whether that's, 5 on baseball or 1 for softball, and you are waiting for that person that's leading off the inning to finish getting on their batting gloves, because that means they've taken 0 practice swings. They're not ready to go. And you walk into that inning with a leg up and an advantage. Okay. Same thing on the offensive side. Imagine standing right outside the batter's box as the leadoff hitter before the pitcher ever gets on the mound and picks up that ball and throws their warm-up pitch or pitches. You're telling them, I'm ready. I'm here and I'm just waiting for you. Let's get it. Right. It changes the perspective of the whole game and puts you as a team into the driver's seat, because they have to match the pace of play that you bring. Pace of play in any other sport is something that's talked about a lot, right? Football is talked about a lot. Sometimes you want to slow it down. Sometimes you want to speed it up. Basketball, same thing. But baseball and softball, it's rarely discussed because our game is not played on a clock. Okay. Summer ball, however, is played on a clock. Even if you don't have a time limit, though, you can still control the pace and subconsciously add pressure to the other team. All right. So that's our expectation between innings. Okay. I'm not going to show up to one of your games with a stopwatch. I can promise you that. But I will show up and I will count in my head, or I will see your effort in getting off and onto the field to make sure that we are owning this process. Okay. Base running, number 2, methodical chaos, meaning that there is a method behind the chaos that we are trying to create. That does not mean we're going to be dumb. We're going to get thrown out 100 times in a season. None of that. But it does mean that we're okay getting thrown out if the situation dictates that we should be running. Okay. Again, process oriented. We want to own our process. We are not afraid of any outcome, because we know that the consistent outcome that we're going to get is going to be positive. Not that we'll never experience negative, but over time, the percentages play in our favor when we do these things. Okay. So when we're on the bases, okay, whether it's stealing a base or not, creating controlled chaos draws attention of the defense, and then it draws attention of the pitcher. And when the pitcher and the defense are focused on the runners on the bases, that means that they are less focused on other tasks, which means that they're going to have more mistakes that you can then hit as a hitter. So one of the ways that we want to create pressure is on the bases. Understand this. If you are the slowest kid on your team and you're like, I can't really steal bases, I'm not fast enough to do that, that's okay. You can still create pressure. What that means is we create more movement when we're on base, right? We take a bigger secondary. We draw attention to what we're doing on the bases. We make them focus on us, knowing that we're not going anywhere. The flip side is, if you are really fast, sometimes we want to draw less attention because we lull them to sleep thinking we're not doing anything, and then suddenly we're standing on the next base. Okay, so figure out which one you are. Which one makes the most sense for you? And that doesn't just have to be on stealing bases. Think about it. You got runners on first and third. Your hitter hits a ball to left field. You're going to tag up from third, right? Maybe. Well, maybe it's not deep enough. And if it's not deep enough for you to actually tag and go, why don't we tag and bluff? Take 3 hard steps off the bag while that outfielder overthrows their cut, throws the ball all the way to home plate, and your runner from first now is able to tag up and move to second. You just created enough pressure to get the defense to make a play that allowed somebody else on your team to advance. Okay, pressure matters. And think about it, if you've ever shaken a Coke can, as you do that, it builds pressure, builds pressure, builds pressure. And then you open it, what happens? It explodes. So you might not see the pressure that you're creating impact the other team in the first inning or the second inning or the third inning or the fourth inning. But at some point, the amount of pressure, if you can keep the foot on the gas pedal, the amount of pressure that you create over the entire game is going to lead to mistakes. It's going to lead to an overthrown play and a bunt. It's going to lead to a wild pitch or a pass ball. It's going to lead to you guys as a team being able to take advantage of something that the other team isn't doing. So little things on pressure. Okay. You hit a single. That's not for you to watch it out of the box and feel good about yourself. Get as big of a turn as you can around first, make that outfielder field it cleanly and throw a dot to the cutoff person or all the way to second base. And if they don't, and you see that elbow drop and them just flick it to the cut, take second. Because now what are they going to do the rest of the game? They're going to be worried about you coming up on the ball quick, trying to make a play. How you go about your process creates the result. So we have to stop focusing on this overall result and start focusing in more on the process itself. Okay. And then defensively, win the count leverage game. Okay. The difference between hitter success and different counts is huge. So our job is to put ourselves in quality pitchers counts where we can keep the pressure on the hitter. So that means this: 2 out of the first 3 pitches that you throw in every at bat, ideally are for a strike. Now, do all of our pitchers have the greatest command in the world to be able to do that every single at bat? No. You guys are playing youth baseball and softball. You're going to make mistakes. But if we focus on that rather than focus on, well, I can't throw it there because they're going to hit it, will we be more successful? Yes. Okay. Keep the pressure on them. The difference between average and hitters counts versus pitchers counts is insane when you look at it. 200 plus points in batting average, on base, slugging, all the main factors that determine overall outcomes of hitters. Okay. So what that means is our pitchers need to do a really good job of just throwing the ball over the plate. That does not mean we want it right down the middle, but we would rather have it right down the middle than 4 feet outside till we're down 2-0 and they're just sitting for the fastball right down the middle. Okay. So we can keep pressure on the offense when we're on defense by throwing more strikes, by working quick. And that doesn't mean rushed, but what it does mean is your catcher is able to throw the ball the entire 60 feet back to the mound, or the entire 54 feet or 48 feet or whatever, 42, whatever it is for the age level and discipline that you play. They can do it. So they do not need you to walk halfway to home plate to catch the ball, to walk all the way back to the pitcher's rubber. We don't need that, right? You throw your pitch, okay, have your regular follow through, catch the ball, get right back on the rubber and be ready for the next pitch. Okay. You need to control your breathing. You need to take a deep breath. You need to, take a second to gather yourself on a bad call. Do it. That's fine. We're not trying to rush you, but we are trying to control the pace of every aspect of the game that we can. Okay. Every single one of them. Non-negotiable number 4, take ownership. Okay. This is huge. The others are very baseball, softball related of things that we want to do on the field. This one is very personal related. Okay. This is something that applies to literally every aspect of your life. And it's really hard for a lot of people. And I get it, because sometimes taking ownership means admitting mistakes, admitting faults, and sometimes that can be embarrassing. But when you are able to own the mistakes that you make, essentially what that does is that gives you the control and the power of that mistake to then overcome it and not repeat it. But when you don't talk about it and you push it off on somebody else and have an excuse of why you were that way, all you're doing is justifying the behavior for when it happens again. And the mistake is already done. You can't change it. So we have 4 things that we need to do when we make a mistake. Simple tasks, simple checklists that you can knock off. Okay. So really simple. Number 1, we want to recognize it. Okay. If a mistake is going to be something that we're not going to continuously repeat, it's important that we recognize the behavior, the process, or the result that caused that mistake to happen. Okay. I made a fielding error. Okay. I recognize it. What did I do? Well, I funneled instead of pressed on a short hop in a 4-hand lane. And that's where I got bottled up. So I recognize it. Right. Now I pick up the ball. I throw it back to my pitcher. I look at him and say, hey, get me another one. I got this. That's on me. Okay. I just admit it to my pitcher. I said, hey, I got you. That's my bad. So now the pitcher's not sitting there mad at you because you made a mistake. They're like, all right, he's still with me. We're good. Don't pick that ball up, huck it at your pitcher as hard as you can because you made a mistake, and then put your glove over your face and drop bombs into your glove that you don't think anyone can hear and act like a crazy person. Okay. Now your pitcher's up there like, I better strike this person out because if I don't, they're going to make another error. Zero confidence. Right. And what happens is, and a lot of you don't recognize this, but what happens is when you act in that manner, that changes their approach to how they pitch. Now, pitchers, it shouldn't, because that would be outside of our circle of what we can control, right? We can't control our defender if they make the play, how they act after. Okay. We can't control the emotions of others. We're not responsible for the feelings of other people. Okay. So you have to do a good job as a pitcher of just continuing to execute, but it becomes more challenging when you don't have as much confidence in the people behind you. Right. So I recognize the mistake that I make. I admit it. I throw it back to the pitcher. I learn from it. Okay. I need to press in that ball rather than funnel. So I've learned from it. And now what do? It's gone. I forget it. Right. Because living in that mistake is going to cause me to repeat that mistake. But recognizing, admitting it, learning from it, and pushing it out of my mind allows me to reset so that I'm in a position to make that play the next time I get it. Okay. So own your mistakes, even when we're inside. Okay. When we're at positionals and I hit a ground ball and we're working one hand lane press and you funnel or you don't press properly and you just make a mistake. And I tell you, hey, here's what you did. I need you to do this. You do not need to look at me and say, I'm sorry. You don't owe me an apology. Okay. I'm not mad at you. There is zero emotion attached to the fact that you made a physical mistake. The key is that you recognize it. And a lot of times we lean to apologize first. Okay. We have to understand that we don't want to apologize for something that we did not mean to do. Okay. Apologies come in when something happens that we made a mistake and it affects other people, but like it's something that we could control, something that we knowingly did wrong. If you didn't do that, you just made a physical mistake. You don't owe me an apology, but you owe yourself recognizing it, admitting it, learning from it, forgetting it so that you don't continuously make that mistake in the future. Okay. Holding teammates accountable. This is a huge one. Okay. And we have some teams that are really good at this. Some players that are really good at this, and some players and teams that are really bad about this. Okay. So I will call it out all winter long if I see it, but this is something that we need to be really good about. Okay. Accountability is the glue to high level teams. It shows that no person is above the team standard, that your skill level does not give you a pass at falling in line with team expectations and standards. If teammates are not following those standards, we have to address those issues. Okay. Good teams have really good culture. And a lot of times good teams have culture that's from the coaches down. Okay. Coaches tell you this is what our culture is. This is how we're going to play. This is how we're going to act. This is how we're going to live. And then they reinforce that. Okay. But the difference between a good team and a great team or an absolutely elite team is that on those elite level teams, a lot of times the coaches don't have to handle accountability anymore because the players take care of it before the coaches ever have a chance. Okay. Player-led standards, expectations, and accountability make a team great. But that takes two things. One, it takes players who are not afraid to step up and say, you're doing this in a way that is not good for the team, or you're doing this incorrectly, or your attitude is not consistent with our expectations, or you have no energy and enthusiasm and it's affecting our group. And that's hard to do to your peers. Okay. And the flip side of that is if you're that player that other player is talking to and telling you, hey, you have no joy in today. You have no enthusiasm today. I need you to fix that. You cannot respond to that in a negative way, because if your goal and the other player's goal is to get the best out of the team and thrive and work together to achieve the greatest possible success that you can have in whatever it is that you're doing, then what that means is we need to, one, hold each other accountable, but two, we need to be open to being coached by our teammates and taking accountability for our actions. We need to be open to allowing others to tell us that constructive criticism so that we can make a change. Okay, so what it comes down to when we talk about teammate accountability is intent of action. Okay, IOA. That's something that you should write down. Intent of action. Here's what I mean. If your intent in telling a teammate that they don't have the right mentality, that they're not making plays, whatever it is, if your intent is to make them feel bad because you're mad at them, then swallow those words and don't even say it. But if your intent is to get them to make a change that is beneficial for the team because you think that it is best for the team that behavior be addressed, then address the behavior. Okay. And you're not going to be perfect. There's going to be at some point somebody who goes about it the wrong way, but your intent was awesome and a coach has to step in and remedy the situation. That's okay. Then you just go back to this top one, own your personal mistakes. Hey, I'm really sorry I went about it that way. Okay. My intent was this. I'm sorry that it didn't come across that way. How can I address that in the future to be better? Okay. A lot of times it just takes open communication, right? And I can tell you that our coaches across the whole program are extremely open to guiding you through ownership, what that means, and taking ownership on their own. Okay. I've had to do it in the past. It is not fun. Okay. I made a mistake last year in a tournament where I had a pitcher scheduled to start that wasn't even eligible to pitch. Okay. Based on tournament rules. Even though he'd only thrown 13 pitches, and I had to pull him and his parents in an out-of-state tournament and say, look, I'm really sorry that I screwed this up, but unfortunately this is just what it is. Okay. And that's hard. I had zero fun doing that. And I don't think that they were too happy about it, but they responded in a very positive way because I know that at the end of the day, mistakes are going to happen, and they were able to show grace, and grace is huge. Okay. Not only grace for others, but grace for yourself. And as a baseball and softball player, it's really hard. But giving personal grace when you screw up, knowing that you're not going to be perfect, is a huge way for you to grow from the mistakes that you make. Okay. And we're all growing. None of us are perfect. Okay. So be reflective with intent to grow. You guys, we're going to get into our resources here in a little bit, but all of you have access to Always Grind 365 books during the season. You guys will get them in a couple of weeks here. Okay. The books are designed to guide your reflection over personal performance, areas of growth, success, and design of your future training. So this gives you an opportunity to fill this out and have a true plan of what your process is going to look like to maximize not only your baseball or softball play, but also your personal and team development over the course of a season. Okay. These are something that we're going to go into that you need to use more than we have in the past. We've adjusted the books a little bit, but it's a great way for you to reflect. Okay, think about it. Oftentimes you get in the car after a game, you talk about how the game went, and then it's out of sight, out of mind, and you go to your next training session and we just go about it like any other. When the reality is we need to move into that next training session knowing what we did well and where we struggled in our last tournament so that we can have an additional focus in our mind of what we're trying to improve. Okay, so reflection is a great way for you to actually improve every aspect of your life. Okay, whether that's morning writing, evening writing, Always Grind book, post-game writing, like it puts you in a position to really learn from the mistakes that you're making or lean into the positive things that you're constantly doing and either do those things more or make adjustments in the areas that you need. Okay, so ownership is non-negotiable number 4. And our last one, non-negotiable number 5. I had a question this week in the BAM and FAM online store of hey, I saw shirts with PBNS. What does that stand for? This is what it stands for. Proud, but not satisfied. Okay. I can tell you that as, one of 2 people who started this program and have tried to build this thing. We've had so many great people come alongside us in this process that have played a huge role in it. I think everybody that has played a role in that, we're extremely proud of what BAM and FAM is. We're proud of what we stand for. We're proud of our coaches, the training that we do, the development that we have, the results on the field. Okay. But that doesn't mean that we're done. It doesn't mean that we're satisfied. It doesn't mean that there's no more growth that can happen. Okay. The moment that you stop growing or that you start to feel satisfied is the moment that you stop getting better. Okay. So what this means to us is we want to take pride in our success. It's we over me. The team wins. I'm 0 for 4. That's still a really good game. I just need to make some adjustments at the plate. Okay. Take pride in team wins. Also take pride in your personal performances. Okay. You go 4 for 4 and your team loses. It's okay to be mad that you lost, but also feel locked in at the plate because you just went 4 for 4. Okay. That's fine. Overall, this game ensures that you're going to fail a lot. So don't allow your mindset or attitude to get negative by only recognizing your failures. Take the time to process the great successes that you've had. Okay. Number 2, it's a new day, and that means new challenges. Okay. Taking pride of success is important, but it's just as important to recognize that yesterday's success don't guarantee today's. That game 1 at 8 a.m. when you were 3 for 3 in the semis doesn't mean that you're going to go 3 for 3 in your 12 o'clock championship. Each day, each game, each at bat, even each pitch, it's all a new challenge to meet. Okay. So when we feel pressure, we can look at it as 2 ways. It's either the threat of defeat. We can let it overtake us and be nervous and start thinking about the future, which is outside of that circle of what we control, or we can look at it as a challenge to meet. Take the ownership, own the moment that I'm in, be present in what I'm doing. Okay, so don't allow yourself to get complacent by feeling satisfied with previous accomplishments. Okay, those are great. They got you to where you are. But if you want to go to where that future is, then you have to move from where you are to where you want to be, which means not living in the past of the things that we've already been successful with or the things that we failed previously. Okay, so never satisfied. What does that mean? In each game that we play, we have an opportunity to compete, and we want to do so to the best of our ability. Okay, when we live with satisfaction or satisfactory, some of you are in grades where maybe you get an S on your report card. That means you were satisfactory. That means that you were okay. You met the expectation. But I don't know about you, I don't personally want to live a life where I meet an expectation, right? I want to exceed every expectation that I have for myself. I want to push myself to a point of being the best person, coach, trainer, whatever it might be that I can become. And I think you guys as players want the same thing. So we don't want to live satisfactory, because then that lessens the importance of the current moment that we're in. We're already satisfied with what happened. So even if I don't get this one, that's fine. You hear people say all the time, man, you know, that was really good. Anything else at this point, that's just icing on the cake. I want the icing. I want the whole cake, and I want the icing. I want it all. And the only way to get it all is to stay locked into the present moment, being mindful of where you are, what you're doing, what challenges you're currently facing, because that's going to take you from where you are now to where you want to be. Okay. So look at the challenge that's directly in front of you. Learn from your past, visualize the future, and execute in the present. Okay. So we have past, present, future. We want to reference the past. It's a place of reference, not residence. We don't live there, but we want to reference what we've done so we can make changes in our present. And we want to visualize or know what we want for our future, but we can't just live there. Otherwise, we won't take any steps. So our goal of not being satisfied, but being proud, is that we stay mindful. We stay present in the moment that we're in, referencing the things from the past, knowing where we want to go in the future, and acting in a way that allows us to move consistently towards that future that we want for ourselves. So those are our 5 non-negotiables. 2-strike approach, we pound the chest. Alpha at bats, we know our rules. Creating pressure in every aspect of the game, taking ownership, creating that internal power to initiate the change that you want, and being proud but not satisfied. Taking pride in the successes that we have, but being ready to tackle the new challenges that we're faced with every single day, every single game, every single inning, every single at bat, every single pitch. If we live that way, the growth that you'll see over time is tremendous, but the moment you get satisfied is the moment that you'll see that growth level off. All right. What I want you to do is write down, if you haven't, a couple big takeaways. Okay. If you've taken notes through this whole session, same thing, just send that over to your coach. Okay. If you haven't taken notes, write down your big takeaways, text those to your coach. I'm going to get the next slideshow up. We're going to start it directly at 11:30. So we have 4 minutes. And we will get that one going. We're right on time, fam. Look at this. We're crushing it today. Okay. If you have big takeaways that you want to share with the group, okay, I know we've gone away from the pair deck of getting those player responses, and some of that is to just stay on schedule. I would love to see it. Okay. So if you want to write something in the chat over those first few sessions that you think is going to be beneficial for you, if you want to take a picture on your phone of one of the slides and tag Bam and Fam on social media, do it. Okay. Any pictures of your team being together, you guys learning this stuff, we would love to see it all. Okay. You can tag IN Bam Fam on any of our social media stuff. You can tag my stuff. You can tag extra inning stuff. Whatever you want to do is fine. The one part that I dislike about running some of this is that I don't get to see as much feedback. So would love it from you guys. All right. I'm going to queue up the next slide deck and we'll get going in 3 minutes.